Jannik Sinner is proving to be a real problem, both on and off the court. His Cincinnati Open title run should have been the headline, but it's just a footnote in what's been a chaotic week in tennis. Heated debates about double standards have been lighting up social media. Controversial calls had players and fans up in arms. The tennis world was just going from one crisis to the next. And then there's Sinner, a problem in more ways than one. His dominant play will be a problem for opponents at the upcoming US Open, but a brewing controversy surrounding a positive test for a banned substance threatens to overshadow his on-court performance. From unexpected upsets to behind-the-scenes turmoil, Cincinnati delivered a week of tennis that no one saw coming. So let's unpack everything that happened in Cincinnati, the controversy, and yes, Sinner's undeniable impact on the tour. Okay, so I'm really going to stir the pot with some strong opinions here. I hope you came prepared. Let's kick it off with Alcaraz's response following his loss to Gael Monfils in the opening round in Cincinnati. 37-year-old Monfils became the oldest man to defeat a top 3 opponent since Roger Federer in 2019. Alcaraz said it was the worst match of his career and that there was nothing positive about the match.
I think it is impossible to get any good things about this match.
As you would expect, he received some backlash for not giving Le Monf any credit for the win. But the biggest talking point of the evening was about Alcaraz smashing his racket to pieces after Monfils went up a break in the 3rd set. Now, I'm not going to take the moral high ground here and instantly criticize Alcaraz for smashing his racket. Of course, it's not ideal, but we often see racket smashing as a common outlet for players to just let off some steam. If you asked me, I'd pick that over umpire abuse. Even the best players sometimes get frustrated and smash their rackets to pieces, but it seems like the reaction from fans is just different depending on the player. At least that's how some players feel. It's why we saw Nick Kyrgios and Corentin Moutet point out what they might call double standards. But I don't totally agree with them, and I'll tell you why. For players like Rublev, Kyrgios, and Moutet, there was a clear pattern established. For Alcaraz, he hasn't had a lot of history smashing rackets or throwing tantrums, and I think until it starts becoming a frequent occurrence from Alcaraz, there's not really a strong case to make. To his credit, Carlitos already apologized for his behavior, and I think we can put the incident behind us. But there was more drama in Cincinnati the following day. On match point, Jack Draper's shot hit the ground before going over the net, and Felix was positive that he shanked it. At first, it looked like a half volley, and the umpire called it a legitimate shot. Looking at the replay in slow-mo, it looked like the shot came off Draper's racket frame into the ground, and then there was a ricochet back onto the racket and over the net. It really was a weird shot. And strictly judging from the eye test, I felt like Draper's body language gave him away, and he definitely knew something wasn't right with the shot. But at the same time, I can't totally blame him for acting that way because it's not his job to make the call in the first place. Tennis is a classy sport, and the sportsmanship is usually next level, unlike in other sports where players go the extra mile to get referees to punish their opponents. I watch soccer sometimes, and I've seen players dive like dolphins at times just to get opponents sent off. In tennis, it's literally the opposite, and we apologize for winning points on net cords and all that. But rather than blaming Draper for not admitting, it's better to direct all that energy to the real problem. Why was there no instant replay with all the modern technology available? We can also be critical of umpires, but again, the truth is that umpires aren't going to be right all the time. Draper's win left a sour taste in all of our mouths, and Novak was quick to respond to the situation. As per Jose Morgado, we got objective data to show that the court speed in Cincinnati was the fastest we've seen all year. And we now know that we may likely see something similar at the US Open. During the Cincinnati Open, we saw that the court speeds favored those players with dominant serves, and we can expect something similar at the US Open. But at the same time, you get the feeling that the players who skipped the Olympics will perform better than those who didn't, just because they're more rested and didn't have to make the change from clay to hard courts. Speaking about the court favoring those with dominant serves, we saw how Sabalenka dismantled Iga in straight sets in the semis in Cincinnati. Iga was leading their head-to-head 8-3 and had won their last 3 meetings, including their most recent hard-court clash in Cancun. But a different Sabalenka showed up this time. Sabalenka was clutch on her serves as she took the first set in a relatively straightforward way. The second set came, and Sabalenka picked up from right where she left off, but this time attacking Iga's second serves more than ever. Down 1-5 in the second set, Iga tried to find her way back into the game and saved 10 match points. But in the end, it wasn't enough as Sabalenka ran away with the W. A first ever straight sets win for Arena over Iga.
Cincinnati with a first ever straight sets win against her great rival.
Iga won only 6 out of 30 points on her second serves. And with Sabalenka being the bigger hitter and riding the hot hand, I'm picking her over Iga if they both face off in the US Open final. Sabalenka faced Pegula in the final, and again, she was too hot to handle even for Pegula's defense. Pegula was taken to deuce in her first 3 service games, and Sabalenka secured the only break of the set to lead 3-1. Meanwhile, Sabalenka was having easy holds herself and only lost a handful of points on her serve. That's how the rest of the set played out, as she took it 6-3. Sabalenka broke Pegula right away in the second set and won the next 4 consecutive service games without losing a point. But while serving for the championship, she played a loose service game to get broken to 5-all, but she then responded by breaking right back and holding on to win the title in 75 minutes.
Arena Sabalenka is the Cincinnati Open champion for the first time.
It's Sabalenka's second title of the year and her first since the Australian Open. Oh, and the title is her 6th WTA 1000 title, and it also gets her a return to the #2 spot in the rankings. For Pegula, she'll be proud of a 9-match win streak which began at the National Bank Open last week. A total of 1,650 points gained over the past 2 weeks for the American too. The implication here is that she moves from number 20 in the WTA finals race to number 7, which is insane. Iga has already qualified for the WTA finals, but now all the attention is on that fight for the final spot. With 8 tournament weeks remaining for players to earn points, it's a tight contest at this point. Navarro currently holds the number 8 spot, but Zheng Qinwen is breathing down her neck at number 9. And then we have Wimbledon champ Barbara Krejcikova at number 10 and Ostapenko at number 11. As the reigning Wimbledon champion, Krejcikova will hold the final qualifying spot with the way things stand at the moment. Switching focus back to the men's side, what were the biggest lessons learned from the final? Despite not being at his best, Sinner got his revenge earlier in the week over Rublev, and then won a tight match against Zverev in the semis. We saw Sinner struggling with his hip in that match, but he was still able to come through. Sinner was up against Tiafoe in the final, and what we saw was a serve clinic from Jannik as the Italian won in straight sets. It was clearly Sinner's strongest serving display of the tournament. Tiafoe only won 11 return points over the course of the entire match, with Sinner holding 5 of his 10 service games to love. Meanwhile, Sinner more than tripled Tiafoe's return points, winning 34 points off of Francis' serve. It was pretty obvious to me that Tiafoe had problems getting Sinner's serves back in the court too. Why? Sinner mixed things up on the first serve, which is exactly what you want to do against the opponent. 10 of Sinner's first serves went out wide, 1 to the body, and 8 down the tee. All the second serves were directed to Tiafoe's backhand, and Sinner won 9 out of the 11 points. On the return, Tiafoe hit all of them standing within 2 meters of the baseline as he tried to attack Sinner's serves, but he just couldn't create pressure with his court position. Meanwhile, Sinner was happy to also mix things up on the return too. He stood behind the 2-meter mark on some of Tiafoe's first serves and stood even deeper on some occasions. Sinner then stood 1 meter inside the baseline on second serves as he remained dialed in on the return. In the end, it was a straight sets victory for Jannik, and he now leads their head-to-head 4-1. Now, it wasn't the final he was expecting, but Tiafoe has looked like a completely different player from the one we saw earlier this year. And along with Sebi Korda, I have them both penciled in for deep runs at the US Open. Oh, and by the way, we now have 5 American men in the top 20. Also, here are the stats from the Cincinnati final. But at this point, some of you may be thinking, Noah, we don't need this analysis right now. Let's talk about Sinner's doping situation.
The water. Bring me wine.
Okay, I hear you, I hear you. A lot of things seem to be going right for Jannik. He turned 23 last week, had already confirmed his place in the ATP Finals in Turin, won his second Masters 1000 title of the year, and showed us that he could win titles despite not playing his best tennis. But things quickly took a downturn with the news that came out a couple days ago. So dating back to Indian Wells this year, we found out that Sinner tested positive twice for a banned substance called clostebol, which is an anabolic steroid. The statement revealed that Sinner received treatment from his physio after his fitness trainer bought an over-the-counter product from an Italian pharmacy. So apparently, as the story goes, Jannik's physio had a cut in his finger and the fitness trainer gave him this product for the cut. And then the physio went on to treat and massage Sinner without gloves, despite knowing that he had a cut. And then Sinner, who also had some skin lesions, somehow got contaminated after receiving treatment. All I can say is wow. Then just a couple days ago, an independent tribunal ruled that Sinner wasn't at fault and that there was no negligence on his part for violating the anti-doping rules. In the past, when something like this happened, players were given a provisional suspension and then it was revealed to the public. But this time, after Sinner failed both tests, his lawyers appealed against the decision immediately and Jannik just carried on playing. It's crazy how an appeal process that usually took so long in the past, that players even served more time than their actual suspensions, was quickly sorted out this time. One theory might be that the appeal happened so fast because Sinner and his team knew the source of the contamination and were able to prove it immediately. Another theory could be that Sinner's lawyers simply knew how to handle the situation better. Or is it just because Sinner's case as the world #1 was taken more seriously than those of lower-ranked players? Those are the three theories right there, but wait a second, let's revisit the statement. It was confirmed that there was less than a billionth of a gram of clostebol that showed up in the test, and that the quantity wasn't enough to be performance-enhancing. It was also revealed that dozens of Italian players have tested positive for clostebol in just the past few years alone. I even saw a Reddit thread that revealed it was exactly 38 Italian athletes who had tested positive in the last 4 years. So here's the thing about clostebol. It is actually used to treat cuts or scrapes, and it comes in the form of ointments, cream, and sprays. But at the same time, it is a performance enhancer, so we've seen athletes get suspended for it. A popular example being San Diego Padres star Fernando Tatis Jr., who received an 80-game ban from Major League Baseball in 2022. Sinner was suspended for a couple of days, which literally no one knew about, and he's also forfeiting the $325,000 in prize money and 400 ranking points he earned by reaching the semifinals at Indian Wells. So now, let me attempt to answer some difficult questions right here. Are you telling me that Sinner's team wasn't aware that there were anti-doping problems with clostebol in Italy? Or that the fitness trainer and physio actually didn't look at the label of the spray to know that it contained clostebol? I don't think so. I think there are irregularities which we don't know about, but there's definitely no chance that the fitness trainer or physio had no idea about the trophodermin substance they were using, because the warnings are clear. By the way, clostebol's short detection window makes it perfect for athletes to use it strategically, as they hope to avoid detection during testing. And we all know players are responsible for whatever goes into their bodies, whether they are aware or not. But let's move on to another point. They also tell us that the experts who carry out these tests do not know who the player is, and that they just take the samples for testing. I'm not saying it's true, but situations like this make it hard to believe. Even Chris Evert thinks that the tennis bodies protect top players by keeping things under wraps. Here's what she says. Quote, "I do think there's some protection here, more than if you were Joe Smith, ranked 400 in the world," end quote. Remember Andre Agassi's case? We saw the same sort of protection there too. It's hard to blame tennis players for feeling hard done by when they've been in similar situations. Many of them were literally guilty until proven innocent. Now, let's not confuse things by mixing the ATP and WTA, because they are different organizations involved with the ITIA in this case, so we might not get all the answers by comparing Halep's case or Sharapova and Beatriz Haddad-Maia to Sinner's case. But what about Nico Jarry, Jensen Brooksby, and Niemer, just to name a few? Why does it seem that there were double standards for Sinner? Some experts have also mentioned that the reason this whole thing wasn't made public in Sinner's case is because, according to the ITIA, no public announcement can be made until the matter is heard in full at the tribunal. And since only an arbitrator heard Sinner's team, the suspension was lifted and he carried on playing until the tribunal also declared him not guilty. We've seen comments from Luca Pouille, Kyrgios, Shapovalov, Liam Brody, and Tennis Sandgren. Or if you see fans going back and forth on whether it's an Eastern Europe versus a Western Europe thing, you have to understand where they're coming from. And whether or not we agree with them or not, we know everyone has the right to voice out their opinions, because at the end of the day, there are many questions, but not many answers. Now, Sinner has been ruled innocent, which is great news for the Italian. However, I would also love to assume that since the ATP made dumb choices in the past by suspending players wrongly or for too long, I want to assume this will be a great way to retrace their steps. The anti-doping situation in tennis is very complex, and I don't have all the answers. Just a couple months ago, I made a video on Simona Halep, and I went into detail on her case and how doping situations have been addressed in tennis in the past. If you haven't seen the video, you should definitely check it out. Taking a look at the bigger picture, the news casts a dark shadow over Sinner's season and everything he has achieved in 2024. And since I'm no anti-doping expert, I'm eager to hear your hot takes about the Sinner situation in the comments, and I'll try my best to respond to everything you have to say. Switching gears, seeing Sinner, Djokovic, and Barbara Krejcikova team up to play pickleball for the Head NYC mashup wasn't so surprising for me. In fact, I just made a video on pickleball's influence on tennis because I've been observing the patterns. I also interviewed a professional tennis and pickleball player in the video, so if you haven't seen it, be sure to check it out. With the US Open right around the corner, I have a ton of great content coming your way, including a deep dive on Tommy Paul, and I'm looking to get your opinions to use in the video. So if you haven't already, click the link up top and sign up for our Discord community, where you'll have a chance to interact with me and also ask questions that I might feature in the video. I can't wait to see you there. If you want more content like this, then like, share, and subscribe. And I should also mention, if you're coming out to the US Open, be sure to stop by and say hi if you see me. Until next time, keep going for the lines.